call to order the Board of Alderman regular meeting Thursday, January 20, 2022. If I get a roll call, please.
Alderman Motley? Here. Alderman Hudson?
Here.
Alderman Wilkins? Alderman Stevens?
Here.
Alderman Rogers? Alderman Magley?
Yep.
All right, we have 4 requests quorum. If everybody stands for pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. That moves us to 4. Comments from citizens.
When are y'all gonna pave my road?
Were you from Campbell Street?
I'm afraid it's about 7 miles east of that one.
That's probably gonna happen. I did not receive any email notifications of anything you brought up for comments from citizens. Did you receive anything?
I did not.
Okay. So, being as I see no one for comments from citizens, I'll close that part of the meeting. We'll move on to 5, the consent agenda. We have the Board of Alderman meetings, which is A, Public Works and Utilities Committee meeting minutes, which is B. C is the General Government and Public Safety Committee meeting minutes. D is the Collector's Report. E is the Treasurer's Report. F is the Activity Reports. G is Bartlett and West Mobile Report, and H is the Financial Reports. I would accept a motion that every time it goes over with, be accepted as a group, or be accepted as a group with any no changes.
Move that we accept the consent agenda. Second.
Have a first and a second to accept the consent agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Moves us to 6, accounts payable of $1,250. I would entertain a motion if you all have a chance to look it over. Grand total of $471,927.28. Is that correct? Right? That's what I got here.
On page 106.
16, yes.
Move that we accept the accounts payable over $1,250 for a grand total of $471,927.28.
Second.
I have a first and a second to approve the grand total of accounts payable of $1,250 and $471,927.28. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Passes. That moves us to 7. Action items, action agenda. Number 7 is the legal use tax on April 22nd, 2022 ballot ordinance that we're looking for. We talked about this a little bit with those that were here the other night when we couldn't have a meeting. It's the county is in the process of trying to get passed countywide, what they're working on. And we would just need to make sure we push it. We closed a lot of the gap last time from the other time that we had ran it on the ballot. In my tenure as a mayor, we were really pretty daggone close last time. And it was, what, $160-some-thousand in revenues that we were potentially looking at from last year.
147.
147, maybe.
1.7 million or 1,000?
147,000, somewhere in that neighborhood.
$147,000. So we would have got this. Estimated.
Estimate, that's close, it's within $1,000, yeah.
Anybody have any heartburn that the school board's gonna go after a bond issue too, looks like?
I bet on it.
Huh?
I bet on it.
What is it?
The school board, if they go after a bond issue, we do this.
May not pass either. May not pass either one.
Yeah.
tell. I mean, you know, I know that if, this is what I know for the school, and the whole time I've ever lived here, if the school will clearly disseminate what they need the money for and why, and do a good job of even halfway proposing that to the citizens of Centralia, I think it'll pass. We never have except for the last time, when the one didn't pass, that was because I think people were concerned that maybe we could spend our allowance and didn't have a reason why we don't have our allowance money, right? So, I think that one, I think Centralia's really good about supporting the schools. As long as you have, you know, what's needed, what's going for, that kind of thing, I think it carries itself pretty well usually. And the whole time I've lived here, I was a kid in school, they always passed. The only one that failed was the one here a while back.
Felt like we didn't know why.
Well, I didn't,
I didn't.
I had a personal reason why I didn't, because I felt like it was rewarding somebody for not having managed their funding. But, and then nobody gave me a real reason what we were gonna do with it, you know, so it was very, very great. But that won't happen this time. I think they'll do a good job of having that clearly spelled out, what they're looking to do, what's needed, how old the stuff is, and that's why it is. And once you do that in Centralia, I think people are more than glad to help with our kids. Centralia's always been good at supporting that. I think they're kind of two different issues. I think the different issue here is, this is more of an education to explain to them, it's a tax, but it's a tax, it's not, you're not being double dipped, it's a tax that's being collected that we're not at this time. And you're gonna have those people that don't wanna pay a tax and wanna buy everything online and don't see the value in paying the tax because they're greedy for themselves, their own household, that's up to them. I mean, and I don't know if it's not greedy, it's their right, they have a choice to do that, right? So I mean, but for me, the convenience far outweighs, it's not to not go to Pringles or somewhere local if I can, there's a lot of stuff that we can't get here in town, and I just soon have it shipped to me and not have to worry about it. But, I don't know, I think it's one of those things, it's gonna take a lot of effort still to get us over the hump with this thing, and we have to all be talking about it and pushing for it and working towards it. But we closed so much gap that I think that we still have that fresh in those people's minds that had voted last time, understand what it was, that if we can get the others, I think we go another year in between there, then that educational process that we did last time, we lose some of that, have to make that up as well as get on the top. That's just my thought, but
Yeah.
your all's thoughts, what do you think? Terry, you got any thoughts about it?
My thoughts are, if both of them will not pass.
You don't think either one of them?
I don't. Just history tells you that.
Has the school said what it's gonna be yet? Do we know? No. Okay.
I don't think so.
I don't wanna take away a chance for our schools, but then again, like he said, this is still fresh in people's minds, so it's a tough decision.
So the question I'd ask you is what you said, right? Because this is what I'm thinking here. Because both are on the ballot, it hurts them both, because they feel like they're being overtaxed, or do you think they're two separate things?
Well, I think that there are people in general that they see an increase in tax are gonna vote no. But then they go and see the ballot that there are two on there,
Mhm.
it's for sure not gonna go. One of them will not go, and both won't go. That's my feeling.
Well, I think there's some validity to that. I mean, there's like there's a lot of taxation going on, right? Increasing this pay
Yeah,
process.
especially now.
I mean, and this one truly is a normalization, you know, bringing it online equal to the rest. It's still cheaper than going to Columbia and paying their tax in some of the shopping centers there. I think we need it. Question is, how do we earmark funds for a couple of years? Do we have a couple pet projects that we advertise on to get done?
I think that's a good idea. I think it's just like when you go back to the school board, at the school meeting, monies, funds, to have a reason that's a driving, tangible, you're gonna be able to see from it, that this is gonna happen, this is gonna happen, this needs to be upgraded, these roofs need to be done on the schools, or whatever it may be. I think then people can feel that they know what they're voting for is gonna go for something physical and tangible, if they can lay their eyes on such. when you made that point the other day, I thought it was a really good point.
That was Heather's point a few months back.
Okay, good.
Or maybe it was shortly after it had been passed.
Or you brought it back up again, let's put that, I
Yeah.
think you brought that up, but I thought.
So do you wanna look at doing this in November? If we're gonna do this at all, to have more time to decide what we would do to earmark money for?
Well,
Do we need to decide what we earmark it to get it on the ballot, or we just have to decide maybe in the next month? So that we can promote it.
we
I would
promote
say
it in a
that
certain
makes
way
sense.
afterwards, I think we
Yeah.
put it on the ballot. Now, does that hurt the school
That's what I mean, that's my.
opportunity
We
to
put
get
both.
the money? Because
Yes, it does.
I do believe that does play a factor in definitely some people's minds. Because some people are gonna vote no, period, for any kind of tax increase, one on there. Others are gonna say, well, I do that for the school, or vice versa, but I'm not gonna do two, I'm not being taxed on anything. I mean, it can happen, I mean,
It'll cost us more to put something in November, right? Do we have anything in November?
It will cost us more to put it in November.
what kind of difference in money do you have any idea?
I'd have to look back, because we did that, a few years ago. It's about almost double, maybe. It's about double what we normally pay in an election, for elections.
Well, I think we wanna start to build the general fund in some ways, right? There's some other ways to talk about doing that. What we're talking about, that we'll be talking about as a group moving forward, I think, to inspect and investigate, using county resources that we don't today, some things like that. As well, that we have to look at, along with naturally the department people that it would affect, that need to have a large voice in that part of it, you know. So, I don't know, I'm open to whatever y'all think. Naturally.
You haven't said anything like that.
I know, I've been over here whispering, why are you being quiet? Say something.
I think the school will pass before the city will. Because the school district, so people out in the county, you know, they're not gonna be hit with both of them. The people that live in town are gonna get hit with both of them.
Yeah.
And I think that's a no vote. And the people in the county are gonna probably vote, I'm not saying, but vote, probably more of them will vote majority yes than no. But they're not looking at two taxes either.
Yeah, until I read that somewhere, about the school board looking at that. I was-
So if anything, I think the school would go before the city thing would. I don't know that, but.
I was for this before that, and I'm kind of on the fence a little bit.
I am too. My concern is, do we rob enough votes from the school district that it doesn't pass there, and we have two figures?
But you don't know till you try. I mean, we could talk about it for 2 hours,
I know, I was
still wouldn't
gonna
know
Yeah.
if we win or lose.
Bill number?
2434.
Move that bill number 2434 be given its first reading by title only.
Second.
Have a first and second for bill number 2434 to be given its first and only reading. All in favor? All opposed?
An ordinance of the City of Centralia, Missouri imposing a use tax for general revenue purposes at the rate of 2.5% for the privilege of storing, using, or consuming within the city any article of tangible personal property pursuant to the authority granted by and subject to the provisions of section 144.600 through 144.761 RSMO, providing for the use tax to be repealed, reduced, or raised in the same amount as any sales taxes repealed, reduced, or raised, and providing for the submission of the proposal to the qualified voters of the city for their approval at the general election called and to be held in the city on April 5th, 2022.
Move that bill number 2434 be given its second reading by title only.
Second.
Have a first and second for bill number 2434 to be given its second reading. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Second reading, please.
An ordinance of the City of Centralia, Missouri imposing a use tax for general revenue purposes at a rate of 2.5% for the privilege of storing, using, or consuming within the city any article of tangible personal property pursuant to the authority granted by and subject to the provisions of sections 144.600 through 144.761 RSMO, providing for the use tax to be repealed, reduced, or raised in the same amount as any city sales tax is repealed, reduced, or raised, and providing for submission of the proposal to the qualified voters of the city for their approval at the general election called and to be held in the city on April 5th, 2022.
I move that bill number 2434 be adopted by roll call vote.
Second.
Have a first and second for 2434 to be adopted by roll call vote. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, roll call vote, please, passes. Roll call vote, please, Tara.
Alderman Magley.
Yep.
Alderman Stevens.
No.
Alderman Hudson.
Yes.
Alderman Motley.
No. Sorry.
Oh, you don't have to apologize. I thought that was coming. First time ever, really.
Oh, this is your first tiebreaker vote.
Yep, it is. I'm gonna vote no to not do it. So with that vote, it does not pass for us to put it on the ballot. That moves us to old business. What old business, any old business we have?
Yeah, I have a couple things on the agenda. Pandemic illness policy and response plan, the only reason I'm bringing it back to the board for review is just because, in January, the Governor Parsons removed the state of emergency from the state of Missouri. So I just wanted to see if there was any reason that we would want to change our pandemic illness plan, preparedness plan, because of that. Currently, we're going off the revisions that we made in September. We're still offering 10 days of paid sick leave on a rolling calendar year for COVID positive and close contact, as in accordance with the CDC guidelines. We are, I believe, still under an emergency or a pandemic designation by the federal government. It's just Missouri is no longer under that. And Missouri, that is only just one of the provisions that we could be operating under this preparedness plan, but I wanted to bring it to your attention just in case there might be any changes to be made. With the widespread breakouts of the new variant, I would be inclined to ask you to leave it as is. But just doing our due diligence whenever there's a change in the status on the state level.
Yeah, I was worried when I read through it that it had expired because of what Governor Parsons did, but you're saying no?
No,
Because I
because
think we need to have it in place right now so that people have that time away, so they stay away if they get it.
I agree. And you run the risk of people running out of sick leave and then coming to work sick whenever they actually have COVID. There, on page 4 of 7, which is page 125 of the packet, there are trigger events, and there are several different trigger events. Number 3 is Missouri issues a pandemic declaration for the state. Honestly, this could be under excessive employee absenteeism, which we're seeing that right now in some departments, or large scale employee exposure. So there are just really a lot of things that we could do. So it doesn't eliminate this policy at all. Continuing to follow it, I just wanted to bring it to your attention.
I think we add this,
Okay.
my opinion.
All right. Okay. And then the next thing was speed limit discussion regarding school zones. We've had, I think our signage is confusing based on what's in the code. What's in the code actually says that our school zones are 25 miles per hour. And after talking to Sydney, we looked through the code to see, to determine where we had designated as school zone speed limits. It's not specifically spelled out in the code. So her recommendation is that we review that and spell those areas out specifically in the code and make some changes. So just wanted to bring that to your attention so that you would be aware that we would have some new information coming.
So basically for you to bring forward to us an updated, clear depiction of what
Right.
those zones are, is that
Right.
correct? From here?
Right, currently the code says that, the areas that we have designated as school zones, which just by signage. It says that it's 20 miles per hour when flashing.
And it flashes 24/7.
Yeah, well, the one over there on Lakeview it's off. So instead of flashing 7 a.m. to 4 p.m., it's flashing 7 p.m. to 4 a.m. So I thought they had gotten that fixed.
I was saying, at nighttime it's flashing.
Yeah, I thought they had gotten that fixed, but now it's flashing again. And then the code actually says that all of those areas are 20 miles per hour all of the time.
We need to change that.
So we need to change it towards, I believe, if this is the way you want to go, 25 miles per hour, but 20 miles per hour when it's
It's
flashing.
flashing.
I think that was our intention, and that's
That's what
not,
we talked about.
that's not what
I
ended
thought
up
that's what
getting
we
passed.
talked about.
That's what we talked about, and that was the discussion actually at IC Barriers by Charlie Johnson and Jim Kemper, and was sitting there, that was confusing, and
Mhm.
it's backwards the way it states it on the sign.
Yeah,
too, so-
yeah. So just to clean that up.
Yeah,
Sydney, did you have anything on that?
I would just say that we're just gonna have to specify so that, well, the one thing the ordinance really needs to have that it doesn't is where does the school zone start and where does it end? So we will need help from our police department and, identifying where they believe the start point is and where the stopping point is, because that should be specifically set forth in statute, or in the ordinance.
Okay.
I mean, I think you would, if you see a sign, you're probably in the zone. If you're beyond the sign, you're probably out of the zone. A sign could be the designator for where the zone starts and stops.
Okay.
I mean, I think that's a simple way of doing it, I don't know.
can you take a look at those and see where they're at today, and make sure you're thinking where they're at, clearly defines it?
Yeah, I'll take it.
To make sure that they're positioned exactly where you think they are, probably makes sense,
Yeah,
right?
I'll take a look.
So assume they are, I would say, at this point.
Well, you know what, I've seen them flashing, but I don't have a mental note of where they are exactly.
No, I just kind of look where we're talking, if that sign is from here to here, that's a designated area, then let's make sure that the designated area with
Yeah.
the position start and end where they're supposed to be, right?
Yeah, is there a state, maybe Cindy knows this or not, but is there a state statute saying how far a school zone is?
I don't know.
Is there any
Sydney, do you know?
guidelines or recommendations, Sydney?
I didn't hear what the chief said, but what was the question again?
I'm just wondering if there are any guidelines from the state or state statute that says like how many feet or whatever a school zone can be.
Should do.
I
should be.
will have to double check and look. I haven't looked on feet specifically. Generally, there's a traffic study that has been conducted in the past where school officials, city officials, law enforcement have determined, kind of where the points of congestion are, where, pedestrian traffic going in and out of the school tends to cluster. And so I know there is a provision under the statute that permits the city to designate it. I'm not for sure about feet. So generally, like I said, it takes an input of a traffic study from the city, the school, and the police department to identify where they think those safety zones are. But I will double check and look.
Okay, thank you.
My question would be on Lakeview, when you're going to the intermediate school, where does it start on Lakeview? Because it should be,
I think it's, that would be what, north of the train tracks, I think.
East
I'm
of
sorry.
Centralia.
you mean?
No, south of the train tracks, right? No, let me.
Well, it would go 4 ways there, if you know what I'm saying. That
Yeah,
would be
east
East of the
Columbia.
train track.
East of the train tracks, I
And it
think.
starts
I
I
right
think it starts about Central Street.
Uh-huh.
That makes sense. That's where it should be to me.
I
I
think that's
never
where it
had one of those
starts.
two.
The only one I would be concerned about is the one at the middle school, because it starts right at Rodemeyer. Is that right?
No, it's
No.
farther down by the library.
Not the flashing light. The
Oh,
flashing light's right there across from Jim Lee's house.
no, you're right.
It would need to be moved.
That would be the only one that I would be,
It would potentially need to be moved.
push it further down.
I mean,
I think it should, because there's a lot of congestion right there where it needs to be
that would be my
down
only
further
one
for the
that
kids,
I can
congestion, the
consider.
buses. And it would need to be on down, no question, as far as where that starts and finishes, right?
Because the one on Lakeview
So, yeah, if you could take a look at
Elementary
that
school.
and tell us, it should start here, this is the intent, and then the sign, and we can have the pole move where it's
Okay.
lit up right,
Yeah.
and we can name it from the street to where,
The
clear.
elementary school is,
Kellogg
it's kind of
Circle.
unique. It really needs to be along Lakeview and along Sims, then Collier and Rollins. I mean, it's the whole block all the way around it.
That's right.
Do you just want me to give this to Heather, or just
Sure.
present next
Yeah.
time, however you want to do it?
Yeah, give it to her, that way she can she's gonna propose what the ordinance should read.
Okay.
But is that, so if, are we going by signs, or, so we're gonna have to buy 4 more signs? For that, if we're going by signage? For Rollins on both ends, and the other street on both ends, so we have to buy 4 more signs?
Yeah, and that's the attorney's recommendation here. It needs to be clearly marked so that drivers clearly know where it's at, because otherwise, you know, both law enforcement and potentially drivers and everybody involved can make a claim that it's not clearly, you know, marked. And I do know that under the statute, it does say that these zones have to be clearly marked. Some places do it by paint on the road, others by signage. So something needs to be done to clearly mark the school zone.
But that signage, it's a visual warning that you need to slow down, it makes you think. I mean, to protect the kids and the people that are out in that activity too.
I mean, I guess at the end of the day, if you really wanted to have a hard marker, you could paint something on the road right at the sign that says anything beyond this is a school zone, or, you know,
Or put school zone,
yeah,
school will start, whatever,
yeah.
end, start on each side, yeah.
I can't remember, do we have signs in front of the high school on Jefferson Street? Or-
No,
No.
only on Cox. And the speed limit on Jefferson Street is,
25, clear
is
out
it
to.
25?
25, clear out to, get no chance.
Past me.
No, I thought it was, it's 35.
It turns before, yeah, chance.
I thought we made every street in town 25 mile an hour.
But we were coming off of a 55 mile an hour street road, so that one stayed 35 to slow people down before it got to 25.
On Jefferson.
Coming in from, heading
Coming
north,
Going from south to north.
yeah, heading north.
Okay, that's all I have on that.
Okay,
So you want to put signage out there on Jefferson Street then? So it's gonna drop from 55 to 20?
I don't know, I think that's something we'll have to talk about. I'll talk to the chief about kind of what makes the most sense out there, and then we'll present it to the board.
Because is that actually MoDOT? Is that a,
On Jefferson?
yes.
No, that's ours,
we take it over right there to.
right at Gano.
We do know. Yep,
I still
Okay.
get complaints about the no chance being 20, 25, whatever.
on the west side, yeah, me too. The 93-year-old lady that lives in the subdivision complained about it.
You wanna
Which I
keep
thought was
30.
quite amazing. Honest to God, it's true, it's pretty wild, but anyway. Any other old business at this time?
How'd the Slaker meeting go?
It went really well, it's operating right now.
What it should be?
Yeah, for the most part, what he was telling me, they dialed it in, they said it wasn't doing,
They had it dialed in they were feeding it
Actually,
40
low.
pounds,
yeah.
which is, didn't say they think that they were gonna be able to get there. So it took this other guy coming in, what was his name?
What Scott, was it?
Anyway. So it seems to be working right now.
Actually, they had it dialed down, they were using less product, when I was talking to Mike about it, so, than what it was before. And it's holding its own, where they're not having to edge up, you know, like it was doing, getting out of control and kicking up, so we'll hold judgment, I guess, till it operates for a period of time, but it has been. Mike was giving me the update, so we'll talk in there, so. Then we'll move to 10, the mayor, I don't have anything to say. Go to the city administrator, monthly report.
See if I can get a question. I put crayfish in my monthly report
Good.
for the summer.
Well, yeah, mud dollars or whatever. We
Mud
call it.
bugs.
Mud bugs. Okay. That moves us to city attorney. Ms. Sidney, anything for us at this time?
Yeah, I'm just gonna update, I am keeping a watch. The governor made an announcement on the several $100 million worth of additional ARPA funding that the state of Missouri is releasing. they're supposed to give some more guidance, and I'm sure Heather will get this too, about how cities may be able to access those for specific one-time projects. So as soon as that information gets out, I will make sure that Heather gets it, but I'm also just monitoring it because there could be some additional funds that the city may want to take a look at for one-time projects from some of those monies. So that's my update.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
That moves us then to 13, city clerk. Okay.
I would just like to remind everyone that even if you're not on the ballot, the personal financial disclosures are a yearly thing, so you want to make sure you get on there, and they're due by,
I got my email today.
I had mine yesterday.
Maybe it was yesterday, but it could have been yesterday, so. Yep. Good, thank you for that. Which 14 as may arise, so.
Are we going to meet on Valentine's Day?
Yes.
Perfect.
That's $75,
But we do not meet on President's Day. That will be a Tuesday meeting.
Oh, yeah, gotta love you, Landon. Let's move on to as may arise. Then we're out of that. That's what arose.
What about the church, or where are we at on that?
We're still, we've sent all the information to the
To
Arch Petrie.
Arch Petrie and his guy, and the owners that bought out D&D are willing to buy it. They're getting together and talking about how to do it, and it should be able to be done because the president and the secretary need to be able to sign the paperwork if she or he is still around or both, and they are, and that should be able to be done, so we should be able to get that deal should be able to get consummated and finished, to where, and then he'll take action immediately, is what I was told by Chad Reams, to immediately tell it, give me some people's names, so, to tear it down, to do the demo, so he's ready to go on it, so. They just gotta get the paperwork and the contract written up, I guess, basically to the point what they're doing, which I'll probably have to go help them get done. I mean, as far as, the one guy's in Hallsville, Arch Petrie's in Centralia, Arch really doesn't have anything to do with it, the other guy procrastinates, so I'll probably have him in my vehicle driving him around to wherever he needs to go at some point. To get this thing done, which I have no problem doing. So, that's where we're at on that. Now, as may arise, anything else? All right, then I would go to 15, which is a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
I have a first and second adjourn, all in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned.